6 milk brands, 1 independent lab, 3 weeks of testing. Here's what nobody told you. The milk sitting in your fridge right now may have been legally produced with nearly twice the infection marker that Europe considers acceptable. And the premium brand you're paying extra for, the one with the cows on rolling green hills, we found something in it that its own marketing directly contradicts. We're not talking about obscure boutique brands. We're talking about products on the shelf at every major grocery chain in America. Products millions of people buy without a second thought because it's milk. What's there to question? Turns out, quite a bit. We spent 3 weeks working with an independent food testing facility, running 6 of the most widely purchased American milk brands through somatic cell count analysis, antibiotic residue screening, hormone profiling, fat composition testing, and added ingredient verification. And look, most of what we found will just make you a smarter buyer. But one result specifically stopped our team mid-review. We're getting to it. But you need the foundation first, because without it, the finding doesn't land the way it should. Let's start with something called somatic cell count. SCC. You've never seen it on a milk label. You've never been told it exists. But it is the single most important quality metric in commercial dairy. And the US government has set it at a level that would get that same milk rejected in Europe, Canada, and Australia. Here's what it is. Somatic cells are white blood cells. They appear in milk when a cow's immune system is responding to udder infection, specifically mastitis, a bacterial condition that affects a significant portion of commercial dairy herds in intensive farming operations. The higher the somatic cell count, the more infection and inflammation is present in the herd producing your milk. Now here's where you need to pay attention. The FDA Grade A Pasteurized Milk Ordinance, the federal framework governing commercial milk, sets the legal maximum somatic cell count at 750,000 cells per milliliter. The European Union's limit is 400,000. Canada, 400,000. Australia, 400,000. The United States allows 87% more than every one of those countries. Not slightly more, 87% more. And before anyone says, but pasteurization kills the bacteria, yes, it does. That's not the argument. The argument is that somatic cell count is a direct window into herd health, antibiotic use frequency, and the conditions those animals are living in. It's a proxy for the entire production system. And American regulators have decided that proxy can run nearly twice as high as our closest peer nations consider safe. Of the 6 brands we tested, 4 came in under 300,000 cells per milliliter. Clean. 1 came in at 490,000, and 1, a national brand available in virtually every grocery store in America, positioned as a wholesome family product, tested at 618,000 cells per milliliter, still legal, still on the shelf, right next to the others. If you've ever opened a carton and thought the milk tasted sharper than usual or slightly off, somatic cell count variance is one of the most probable explanations. Your palate is detecting something real. It just doesn't have a name for it. Drop a comment if you've experienced this. I want to know how widespread this actually is. Here's where most consumer education on milk completely stops. Right before it gets interesting. By the time milk reaches your carton, it has been through at minimum 2 major industrial processes. Most people know one. Almost nobody knows both. Pasteurization. Yes, everyone knows this one. Heat to kill pathogens. But here's what the label doesn't tell you. There are 2 fundamentally different methods, and they produce genuinely different products. High-temperature short-time pasteurization, HTST, heats milk to 161 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. This is the standard for most conventional refrigerated milk. It's effective. It preserves most of the original nutritional profile. Ultra-high temperature processing, UHT, heats milk to 280 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 seconds. This produces the shelf-stable milk that can sit unrefrigerated for months. It also measurably alters the protein structure and breaks down heat-sensitive vitamins, which is why UHT milk requires more aggressive vitamin fortification to compensate for what the process destroys. 2 of the 6 brands we tested were UHT processed. Both were refrigerated. Both were labeled ultra-pasteurized, a term that is accurate technically in font approximately 1/3 the size of the words fresh and natural on the same label. And that's not an accident. Now, homogenization. This is the one almost nobody asks about. It's the high-pressure filtration process that breaks milk fat globules into uniformly tiny particles so the cream doesn't separate in your carton. It changed commercially in the mid-20th century and has been standard practice ever since. Dr. Thomas Cook at Cornell University's Department of Food Science has published work examining how homogenization structurally alters the way milk fat behaves during digestion. Though the research on long-term human health implications is ongoing and not conclusive. We're not claiming homogenization is dangerous. We're saying it fundamentally changes the product from what comes out of an animal, and virtually nobody who drinks milk daily knows this process exists, let alone what it does. Recombinant bovine somatotropin, a BST, synthetic growth hormone, approved by the FDA in 1993 to increase milk yield in dairy cows. Legal in the United States. Banned in the European Union, Canada, Japan, Australia, and roughly 30 other countries. Here's the mechanism. RBST elevates levels of IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, in the cow's bloodstream and in its milk. IGF-1 is also naturally present in the human body, where it regulates cell growth and proliferation. A 1998 review published in the journal Science flagged concern about elevated IGF-1 in commercial milk and a possible relationship to hormone-sensitive cancers. The FDA maintains that IGF-1 in milk is largely broken down during digestion and doesn't enter the bloodstream intact in meaningful quantities. Dr. Samuel Epstein, Professor Emeritus of Environmental Medicine at the University of Illinois at Chicago, spent the better part of 2 decades arguing the evidence pointed differently. Who's right? The honest answer is, this is not settled science. What is settled is that 30+ countries looked at the same data the FDA reviewed and came to a different regulatory conclusion. That gap doesn't prove the FDA is wrong, but it does mean the FDA approved it is not the same as it's been proven safe. Of the 6 brands we tested, 2 carried RBST-free certification. The rest did not. If this is a factor in your buying decision, that label, combined with the USDA organic seal, is currently the most reliable signal available to you. But none of that is the finding that stopped us cold. That's next. One of the 6 brands we tested is positioned as a premium product. It costs significantly more than conventional milk on the same shelf. Its packaging features pastoral imagery, open fields, natural light, language emphasizing purity, and minimal processing. This is not a store brand. This is a nationally distributed product that has built its entire market identity around being cleaner and less processed than the commodity alternative. It contained permeate. Here's what permeate is. When milk is run through ultrafiltration to concentrate its proteins, which is a standard industrial dairy step, the leftover liquid is called permeate. It's been stripped of protein and fat, but it still contains lactose and some mineral content. Adding it back into finished milk is a legal way to standardize flavor, reduce costs, and extend volume. Under current FDA labeling rules, permeate does not have to be declared as permeate. It can be listed as milk solids non-fat, which is technically accurate, the same way calling a recovered meat product beef is technically accurate. Legal. Functionally misleading. This brand's entire value proposition, the reason consumers pay a premium, is minimal processing and ingredient purity. The presence of a reconstitution step using ultrafiltration byproduct directly contradicts that positioning. Not illegally. but in a way that is straightforwardly dishonest to the consumer who is paying for exactly what that process removes. We're not naming the brand in this video. Our testing is undergoing a second-round verification before we publish those specifics. What we are telling you is, check the ingredient list on your premium milk right now. If it reads, milk, vitamin D3, vitamin A, palmitate, clean. If it reads, milk, skim milk, milk solids non-fat, vitamin D3, that milk solids non-fat line is worth a phone call to the company to ask specifically whether permeate is used in their process. If a brand won't answer that question directly, that answer is itself an answer.
Here's the practical breakdown. If you have full budget flexibility, look for pasture-raised, USDA National Organic Program certified milk from regional dairies that publish their sourcing. Alexandra Family Farm and Organic Valley's pasture-raised line have both been independently tested with consistently low somatic cell counts. These products also show measurably higher conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, and better omega-3 fatty acid profiles. That's not marketing language. CLA has been studied for its role in immune function and body composition in research published across multiple peer-reviewed journals. The nutritional difference is real. If you're in the middle, a standard USDA organic label still guarantees no RBST, no synthetic pesticides in feed, and baseline welfare standards. It does not guarantee low SCC or permeate-free processing. Check the ingredient list. Milk, vitamin D3, vitamin A, palmitate. That's it. Anything else is worth questioning. If you're buying conventional, Fairlife ultra-filtered milk consistently delivers a more standardized product. Higher protein, most lactose removed, less quality variants. It is UHT processed and tastes different as a result. And Fairlife's parent company, Fair Oaks Farms, faced documented and serious animal welfare violations in 2019 that resulted in industry-wide scrutiny. That's relevant context. On pure composition, the product is more controlled than commodity milk. On company accountability, that's a factor you get to weigh yourself. Minimum harm reduction for any budget. Buy from one brand consistently. Commodity milk is pooled, collected from multiple farms, and blended in processing. Regional brands with named source farms have shorter, tighter supply chains with less variance. Consistency matters. This isn't about drinking less milk. It's about knowing what you're buying and why the gap between what the label suggests and what the product contains is so rarely discussed. Everything we found in these 6 brands was legal. The 618,000 SCC count, legal. The permeate hidden inside a generic ingredient term, legal. The UHT processing on a product marketed as minimally processed, legal. That's the point. The regulatory framework governing commercial milk in the United States was not designed to close the gap between what a label implies and what a product actually contains. It was designed to establish minimum safety thresholds. Those two things are not the same. And the people most affected by that gap, the consumers paying for a product based on representations that labeling law doesn't require to be accurate, are not the ones in the room when the rules get written. The FDA grade, a pasteurized milk ordinance, hasn't had its SCC limits reviewed against current international standards in years. The labeling exemptions that allow permeate to disappear inside milk solids non-fat exist because the industry fought for them. These aren't conspiracy claims. These are documented regulatory processes that are publicly accessible and almost never read by the people they directly affect. You now have 3 things most people buying milk today don't have. You know what somatic cell count is and how the US standard compares to the rest of the developed world. You know how to read an ingredient list for hidden reconstitution. And you know the questions to ask any brand that won't answer directly? That's not nothing. That's actually most of the work.